if you were to say to somebody today, in all the years that you've had, what's your best piece of advice?
Look for the upside
I love that.
because life will be lifing. Things are going to happen. There's a scripture that says that this too shall pass.
Hmm.
Things that we're going through. Think it not strange that you'll face the fiery furnaces of this world. You will, not you might. You will have tribulations. Viktor Frankl in Man's Search of Meaning said, in life, you either in a problem or just left one or headed toward one. And so it's very important to be tenacious, to be determined and relentless, to look for the upside because it's there. It's easy to surrender and give up your power to what you're going through. L.C. Robinson said, things may happen around you and things may happen to you, but the only things that really count are the things that happen in you. And your program is designed to ignite in people the greatness that they have within themselves, to know don't buy into where you are right now. We're not here to react. We're here to create. Look for the upside.
You're a CEO, entrepreneur, or business owner that can't seem to figure out what is blocking you from attaining the next level of growth in your business? Then listen up. I'm Maria De Lorenzo Reyes. I've taken what I've learned in 30 years working inside multi-million-dollar corporations, building my own business, and consulting my clients, and discovered 5 themes that stop a business from scaling. I've created a tool to help you get the answers you need to get unstuck and unlock the next level of growth. Head over to scale.mariadr.com and click the link to get your custom Scale Factor Formula scorecard when this episode is over. Hey everybody, welcome to Finding the Upside. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am in the studio here in Bravery Studios here in New Jersey, and I have a very special guest with me. I have the incomparable, the infamous, well-known, and iconic Les Brown. Hey, Les.
Hello, how are you?
I am wonderful. I'm so happy to have you here speaking with me today. Thank you for joining us.
It's an honor to be here, and I love your title because in all situations, we have to look for the upside.
Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, that's, one of the reasons why I picked that is really finding the upside is really the challenging part, right? But there always is one. So I love that. And I know we're super aligned on that belief. So I am super excited to have you here. I just want to kind of highlight a few points before we get going. Les is a motivational speaker. He's been a politician. He's an author. He was a broadcaster, had the Les Brown Show. He is world renowned, and he's been inspiring generations for over 50 years of people on the digital platform in the traditional sense, and inspiring them to capture what's special about them and bring out the greatness within. Did I get that right, Les?
Yes, you got to be hungry for greatness. Yes.
There you go. I am super, super excited to get into the conversation with you about all things. But, if you were to say to somebody today, in all the years that you've had, what's your best piece of advice?
Look for the upside
I love that.
because life will be lifing. Things are going to happen. There's a scripture that says that this too shall pass.
Mm-hmm.
Things that we're going through. Think it not strange that you'll face the fiery furnaces of this world. You will, not you might. You will have tribulations. Viktor Frankl in Man's Search of Meaning said, in life, you either in a problem or just left one or headed toward one.
Yeah.
And so it's very important to be tenacious, to be determined and relentless, to look for the upside because it's there. It's easy to surrender and give up your power to what you're going through. L.C. Robinson said, things may happen around you and things may happen to you, but the only things that really count are the things that happen in you. And your program is designed to ignite in people the greatness that they have within themselves, to know don't buy into where you are right now. We're not here to react. We're here to create. Look for the upside.
Love that. Yeah, one of the quotes that I love that you talk about is life has no limitations except the ones you make. And that's one of the quotes that I love because it really is true. Possibility is everywhere, right? But it's also that you have to look for that and you have to latch onto that. And I think it's an important message for everyone to understand what you just said, that it is, all of us go through ups and downs, always problems coming out of them, heading into them. They'll always be there. And just being able to keep yourself grounded in that message and coming back to that is what keeps you forward. And I love that. You talk about being tenacious. You talk about not giving up until you win. Talk to me about that and how that's motivated not only yourself, because I know you speak that to others, but talk to me about where that came from and how that's really served you over the last 50 years.
I've been reflecting on my life because February the 17th, I turned 80. And well,
Wow.
now I say I'm 80-ish.
I like that.
Yes. And and in part of what I've been reflecting on my life, I was talking to my great grandchildren and they asked me, what advice would you give us as we move forward in life? And I said, live your life the way you want to leave your life.
Mm,
And that way you die a life of no regrets. I was born in an abandoned building on a floor with my twin brother, Wesley. We were conceived in Gainesville, Georgia. Our birth mother drove down to Miami, and the largest hospital there, Jackson Memorial Hospital, didn't receive Black people at that time. So they
mm.
drove around, found an abandoned building, and went in, and she gave birth to us on a floor.
Wow.
And we were then put into foster care. And when I was in the fifth grade, I was labeled educable mentally retarded and put back from the fifth grade to the fourth grade. And I failed again when I was in the eighth grade. And I had this high school teacher who made a dramatic impact in my life. And he had a personality very similar to yours, an individual that was always looking for the upside. And he said, young man, I want you to go to the front of the room and work this problem out for me. I said, sir, I'm not one of your students. I'm here looking for MacArthur Stevens. He said, do what I'm asking you to do anyhow. I
Hmm.
said, I can't, sir. And the other students started laughing, saying, he's Leslie. He's got a twin brother, Wesley. Wesley's smart. He's DT. He asked, what's
Mm.
DT? He's the dumb twin. And they started laughing. And he looked at me and I said, I am, sir. And he came from behind his desk. He said, don't you ever say that again. Someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. Do you hear me? I said, yes, sir. And that was a major point in my life. Your program, people who are listening, speakers, trainers, coaches, when we communicate with people, how people live their lives is a result of the story they believe about themselves.
Very true.
And so he distracted me from out my story that your people listen to your program, that you distract, dispute, and inspire. You distract them from a current story. And through them listening and to the guest and to the information that you provide, you dismantle their current limited belief system and inspire them to have the courage to make a new decision about their lives and become, as Mother Teresa would say, a pencil in the hand of God and start writing a new chapter in their lives. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I look at my journey, and I'm still growing, I'm still developing, I believe that the experiences we go through, they build our character and they give birth to a part of ourselves that we would not know had we
Mm.
stayed in our comfort zone where dreams and potential go to die. That
Mm.
by putting ourselves at risk and being willing to fail again and again and again, we discover things about ourselves that we would not find otherwise.
Wow, that's beautiful. What I thank you for sharing that story, and I love all of the wisdom in that. And it's so inspiring when we can share that part of our journey that we have kind of discovered, and what I hope for in people who are younger, because I look back on my life as well, where I'm at, and I think, wow, all of this, wisdom, what I know, what I believe, what I've become was a result of all those experiences along the way, good and bad, and all those lessons I've learned. And I think, when I look at the younger generation, I have a son who's in his 20s, they don't have the wisdom that we have yet, but it's the hope and the belief to try to instill in them that you will learn. You will learn from that failure. You will learn from falling, sometimes more than the successes. It's how you come out of it that matters most.
And there's some things that life will teach our children that we can't teach them, that they can't hear it from us.
Very true. Very true. I'm learning that a lot right now, for sure.
Uh-huh.
But what I also love about what you said, and I'd love to unpack this, is not only this podcast to educate and inspire others, and to really look for that upside, and really share these stories and these messages to help give people that ability to grasp on to those ideals and those concepts that can help them. But also in my work in leadership, one of the things that I talk about a lot, and I know that you know this, in rebel leadership, is about really abandoning the traditional models that are very flawed in business and companies that I work with. I've seen it over and over again, where the culture is such that there's not that climate for allowing people to make mistakes, to learn from them. Instead, it's this punitive kind of culture. And I've always worked to inspire companies, leaders, to create that culture of where people can learn. People can learn, they can be unafraid to make a mistake, ability to say, I need help. And really creating that is what creates the greatness, not just for the individuals that you're impacting, but also the success of the teams and the companies. What would you say? What's your opinion? I talk a lot about, the bad models that we have of leadership right now. And it's my mission to create a world where we lead differently, and that can change, the impact that we have as leaders in business and in life. But what is your opinion, or what can you say about the state and the model of leadership that we have today? And what can we do to impact that more positively?
We have a variety of models out here. One of the things I think is very important is that self leadership is major. You can't
Hmm.
lead where you have never been.
Hmm.
And self mastery is important for leaders, because the more you know about yourself, the more you discover about other people. And
Yeah.
it's something that you grow into, that when you are in the role of managing other people, that the speed of the leader is the speed of the group, that
Hmm.
based upon your style and how you interact with people, and you're seeing the possibility for them and creating a community where the people are holding themselves to a higher standard, where it's inspiring, it's encouraging, that you create what Harvard University, they did a 78-year study, and they want to know the people, the one percenters of top leaders, what is it that they had in common? And what they discovered, they had a reference group. They were in a group of other leaders, people who had goals and dreams and
Hmm.
big projects of major corporations, or a large body of people that they had to work with. And that those individuals, iron sharpening iron, holding each other to a higher standard, challenging each other, bringing the best out of each other, that reference group allowed them to achieve things that people who don't have that same community of collaborative, achievement driven, supportive relationships don't have, because
Hmm.
there are a lot of things that we don't know. And one of the most important things about being a leader is asking for help, not because you're weak, but because you want to remain strong, and ask for help and don't stop until you get it. And many leaders won't do that because they don't want to appear to be weak. I learned when I was a state legislator in Columbus, Ohio, that being open and being willing to collaborate and work with people and getting to understand them, it really gave you an opportunity to do some things in a process of teamwork that you could never do solo.
Yeah. Yeah. So accurate and so inspiring to think about how all of those really basic concepts of, I often say it's bringing the humanity back into leading others, and remembering that you're having an impact on their lives. And the collaboration that you mentioned, I wanted to unpack that. I think in business often, and, we all want to be successful, but there's so much competition rather than collaboration, which competition harbors lack of teamwork in many cases, and collaboration where we help one another and we inspire one another and we rely on one another and we have that sense of community can really create way more success. And you mentioned self leadership, and I think that's also in self mastery. And I love that you said that, because one of the things that I believe and I try to impart is that you can't be a great leader if you're not self aware and you're not striving to improve yourself and be a better human, be a better leader, learn what you don't know, admit that you don't know it. You just can't be great, if you're not humble enough to be able to hold the mirror up to yourself and ask yourself to be more, just like you're asking your team to be more. So I love that you said that, and I think that those are guiding words, that we should be striving to achieve as leaders. And I also wanted to ask this of you. Leadership is also often considered somebody who officially has a title, somebody who officially has a position. What are your thoughts about how we all can step up to the role of leadership regardless of that?
Maria, we're in a different environment. One of the biggest challenges that leaders have is to create and inspire engagement.
Hmm.
We're living in a time where we have more communication instruments and less communication.
So
And so,
true.
one of the most important things that leaders have to do is to know the people that they're working with. Don't make any assumptions. One of the things that allowed me to become successful as a speaker, the speaking industry has been governed by the Dale Carnegie course. Tell them
Yeah.
what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them.
Yeah.
And that's a good concept. But when I train speakers, I teach them never let what you want to say get in the way of what the audience needs to hear. Find
Mm,
out who they are. What are the pain points? What are the things that's keeping them up? So when you are leading people, you got to get to know them. What is
yeah.
it that inspire them? People learn in different ways. Your
Yeah.
communication style. Some people, when you communicate them, with them, people listen in one of three ways. Some hear what they want to hear, some hear what they think they hear, and some hear what's really being said. So, getting to know the people that you're working with and monitoring them is very, very important. And being able to hold their attention. It's the one of the most important qualities of being a leader. I'll never forget this man, Mr. Washington, said, Mr. Brown, develop your mind. He said, you don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you are. Practice
Mm,
OQP, only quality people. You earn within $2,000 to $3,000 of your closest friends. And he said, develop your communication skills, because once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. So
mm,
leaders have to be able to know how to communicate with people so that they don't just hear you, but they feel you. They have to
mm.
speak in a way that they can create an experience where people are able to relate to them, to connect with them, and identify with them so that they would be able to impact those individuals.
Yeah, so true. That is, and your assessment on that we have more communication tools and less communication is so accurate. And I often think about, the generations that came after me, right? I didn't grow up with cell phones and email even, when I first came into working. I don't think we even had computers, to be honest with you. And now, like the generations that are coming up, that's all they know, them getting that message of being able to really connect on a deeper level can only come by getting to know them, not on a platform, not in a text, not in a digital format, by being able to really get to know them and interact with them and socially connect. And I love what
Yeah,
you said about the messages, where people need to feel them, not just hear what you're saying. and understand what you're saying, but feel it. W- How do you, as a speaker, ensure that because you mentioned people learn in different ways. And I agree with you. As a trainer, I know that. I know I have to deliver my message different ways so it sticks, right? Different methods, different ways of saying it, different experiences. But how would you, as a speaker, ensure that your message can hit all of the different types of people so that they're going to feel it and it resonates with them? What is like the thing that you focus on to ensure that in that message it really connects and draws that emotion that you're looking for?
Before I speak to any audience, I send a needs assessment,
Mhm.
asking some key questions so that I would know who I'm speaking to. Because when you speak, people have some questions going on in their mind. Number one, who are you?
Yeah.
People listen to and influenced by people that they get to like. If people don't like you, they're not going to be influenced by you. So you got to speak in a way that you know who they are and that they like you. Next thing, not only do they ask, who are you, but can I identify with you? And that's the value of getting to know who you're speaking to and understanding what they're doing, what they're facing, so that they can identify with you. The other thing that's very important is using stories in your communication style so that when you speak, they see themselves in the stories that you share so that they would be able to relate to you.
Yeah.
And from being able to relate to you, identify with you, you create a level of connection. You
Mm.
can't correct unless you connect. And leaders who don't understand the process of creating that emotional event that the audience can connect with you and you can bring out a part of them and take them to a place in themselves that they can't go by themselves, they're going to fail that group and fail themselves. And so
Yeah.
it's a process. Most people don't spend time learning how to listen to the listening. How are people listening to you and being able to monitor to find out, do they hear you? Or are you communicating in a way that is going over their head? What are the things I like to do when I speak with audiences? And I'm challenging them, and I have their theme that I incorporate in my presentation. I said, everybody hold up your index finger. And most people do. I said, come on, everybody. I said, I want you to put it in your ear. Do it right now. Just follow my example. Trust me, you're going to appreciate this. And they do that. And then I say, you have something special. You have greatness in you. You have the ability to do things that you don't even know. Eye has not seen, ear has not heard, nor has entered the heart of mankind what God has in store for you. You are meant for more. I said, take your finger out. I said, very good. The reason I had you to do that, I didn't want to go in one ear and out the other.
That's great.
And they crack up and say, oh, you got me.
That is great. I love that. I love that. That's
Thank you.
amazing. Yeah, I know that, that's one of the messages, obviously, over the years, seeing your speaking and your videos and all of that. That's one of the messages that comes loud and clear, and I love that you say that. And I also wanted to tie that to, if you would, speak about, that it was your mother who kept telling you that you're special, and that programming, despite the messages that you were getting in school, or the things that, the feedback that your mother was hearing and kind of ignored or maybe didn't understand, which was amazing. But you hearing you're special, what, and obviously you providing that to other audiences, you know what did that allow you to overcome, and when was it that you were able to kind of take that in and believe it?
I'm glad you asked me that question. I was talking to my oldest daughter, and she asked me a similar question. When did you know that you could do what you are now doing? And I said, I didn't. I
Mm,
said, Mike Williams, who's my mentor, he wrote the book, The Road to Your Best Stuff. I wrote the foreword for that, The Road to Your Best Stuff. I encourage your audience to get it. I said, Mike saw this Les Brown before I saw him.
yeah.
And one of the things that I think is very important in life, that you have somebody in your life who can believe in you until your belief kicks in.
Yeah.
And he said to me, Brownie, you're more than a disc jockey. I said, I am. And at that time, look out, baby, this is me, LB Triple P, Les Brown, your platter playing papa. There were none before me, and there will be none after me. Therefore, that makes me the one and only. Young and single and love to mingle, certified, bonafide, indubitably qualified to bring you satisfaction, a whole lot of action. I was bad, Maria. Yes, I was. And he said, man, you can do more than entertain people. You can empower them. You can use this microphone to inspire people to take their lives to another level. I said, I can? And I said, yes. He said, yes. And I believed in his belief in me until I came to this place because I was acting on what he saw, that
Mm-hmm.
I saw it myself finally. And it was really at a very challenging place. When I spoke in the Georgia Dome, you see me speaking, Les Brown speaking in the Georgia Dome, over 80,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy heard one of my cassette tapes, okay, and invited me to speak there. He was just enchanted with my style of communication.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget when I was going where I thought was to the green room, and the guy said, what is it like to speak to 80,000 people? I said, I don't know. I'm here. I'm speaking to a small group of people about Amway. He said, are you Les Brown? I said, yes. He said, come here a minute. And he took me. He said, look there. You see this stadium of people? I said, yes. He said, they're looking for you. They're waiting on you now. Maria, I took off and I started
Mm.
running. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to the bathroom. I said, but it's number one. It's number one. And so they were saying, you got to come out. They're stalling. They're waiting for you. And they say, call Mike Williams. And Mike, he knocked on the door. Brownie. I said, yes. He said, come on, man. They're waiting on you. I said, Mike, it's 80,000 people out there.
Wow.
I've never spoken to a crowd that large. He said, Brownie? I said, yes. He said, are you scared? I said, yes. He said, Brownie, listen to me. I said, what is it? He said, do it for your mama. I said, oh
Mm.
man, don't use my mama on
Mm.
me.
Oh
He
my goodness.
distracted me from my fear. He said,
Yeah.
you know how proud she's going to be to say, my boy spoke in the Georgia Dome? Miss Mamie would be so proud of you, Leslie. Come out, man, now. And I came out, and as I went up the steps and they gave me the microphone, he looked at me and said, Brownie, you got this.
Wow.
And I saw it in his eyes, and it hit me in my heart. And I turned and I started speaking. I don't even remember the speech, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I kept hearing the words in my mind. You got this.
You've got this.
And there are things that we can do that we don't even know that we can do. I had no idea that I could command an audience of that size. I'd never have done that. And
Mm-hmm.
so the work that you are doing, having people to look for the upside,
Mm-hmm.
is so very important because you're creating it within them a sense of optimism. A
Yeah.
person who suffers from possibility blindness can look at opportunities and all they will see are the obstacles. But when you have a sense of optimism, you can look at obstacles and you're going to look for the upside. You're going to look for how you can convert this crisis, which means danger, but in the Chinese language, it also means opportunity. And you can
Mm-hmm.
only convert challenges into opportunities if you're looking perpetually and relentlessly for the upside. That's why this work that you're doing, it's the greater work, and people need that now more than ever before.
Yes, that is for sure. Yeah, thank you for sharing that story. What an amazing story. And I love also the belief that that gentleman put in you, and also, your mom saying you're special and all that, and those messages that you talked about, the programming that you have around you. And I think we tend to, I think, undervalue that many times. And I think I can look back in times in my younger life when I really wasn't aware what was impacting me. When you start to take hold of that and you start to insert and surround yourself with the network and the messages and the people who can stand in that belief gap for you. And that's, as part of my leadership work, that's one of the quintessential things in all the years in being a leader is you have got to stand in their belief gap until they believe it. That's your job. That's your role. That's your lasting impact. Because when you see, and I will say, when you see that happen, because I've had it, I've had moments where I had people that came on to work for me, and it really all there was the lack of belief in themselves. That's really all there was. Sure, they needed to learn other things. And I thought, wow, how many people did they encounter before them that just didn't believe in them? And when you see that and you stand in that belief gap for them, I had one gentleman who worked for me for a short time, 4 years. But when he came to me, he was beat down. He felt like he was never going to be given a chance. And I was like, I don't know what it is. I'm just going to give him a shot. He achieved way more than even I imagined that he could. And of course, more than he imagined. And it really, all I did for him was stand in his belief gap until he believed it himself. And so when I think about that, and obviously there's so many things as a leader that we can do, but that is like the magic of what you can do to change somebody's life. And I also believe that we have a responsibility to do that in every person we encounter. We can do it for the positive, which is my mission, or we could do it for the negative, and understanding that we have the ability to impact, and which way are we going to do it? So I love that he instilled that in you, and that you were able to have that moment, and that disbelief, almost, that like, is this real? I'm speaking to 80,000 people. I love that. But also, just as you said, just the faith in that there are things that are coming into our life to help us learn, challenge us, grow, challenge us and grow. And when you talk about finding the upside, what I love that you're bringing that up so much is that I also think about in business and companies that I work with, and my own company, we are going to have some things that are going to fail. We are going to have some things that aren't going to work. And in the climate today, there are so many conditions that could kill a business, a company, an initiative. You've got to be able to look at it for, okay, now what? Now what can we do? There's got to be some opportunity in this. There's got to be some way that we could overcome this. And you could choose to just say, forget it. But there's so many stories and so many conditions where you could overcome that. It's just you've got to look for it and come to it with that mindset. So I wholeheartedly believe that in the personal realm, but also in the business world as well.
Absolutely. There are many people who are failing in their personal lives and their professional lives because they are trying to open up new doors of opportunities with an old mindset and antiquated
Mm,
skill sets. Robert
mhm.
Schuller said something that I believe is very important. He said, you either expand or you are expendable. And so
Yes.
when we look at this space where we are, where over 325 million people are going to lose their jobs to artificial intelligence, we're in
Yeah.
this place where Peter Drucker said that we must be willing to unlearn, learn, and relearn. That there's
Yes.
the skill set that we have learned that will not work in this new landscape. Where
Hmm.
Einstein said, the thinking that has brought me this far has created some problems that this thinking can't solve. So we've got to be willing to unlearn and to relearn, to upskill, to retool, to increase our knowledge, our skills, and our impact, and be willing to be a perpetual learner
Hmm.
because we can't set back on our laurels. Life is about evolving. Socrates says a man's reach is to supersede his grasp or what are the heavens for? And so we must never rest on our laurels. There's always a better level and a chance to do what the played Lion King, Simba, you're more than
Mm-hmm.
that which you have become, knowing that
Mm-hmm.
we are meant for more.
Yeah. So inspiring. Well, Les, this has been such a pleasure and an honor. I so appreciate talking with you. I could talk all afternoon, but
Well,
we
thank
have
you.
come
I'm
to
glad that Lady T got us together.
Yes,
Trisha.
Lady T connected us, and I love
Yeah.
that. Thank you so much for everything you shared. A lot of what you mentioned, the books that Les mentioned, and also the way to connect with Les, I will put in the show notes. So I have thoroughly enjoyed this, and I can't wait for the next conversation we have, because I'm just teeing that up now.
I love it.
Now, if you loved part one of this episode and my interview with Les Brown, make sure you go listen to part two, which is inside the new Business Leaders Hub. Go ahead into the show notes to get the link to get access.
Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. See you on the next episode of Finding the Upside. Bye for now. All right, so I hope you loved this episode and found it valuable. Thanks for hanging out with me. And if you'd be so kind, if you know someone else that this will help, please share this episode with them. Just grab a link for this specific episode, text it to a friend or colleague so it can help more people like you. Thanks so much for tuning in. I will see you next time for more entrepreneurial goodness. Same time, same place on the Finding the Upside podcast.